I am Lisa Von Drasek, and welcome to Read This Book. I'm the curator of the Children's Literature Research Collections at the University of Minnesota, also known as the Kerlan. And today I have
Amy Riegelman. I am a social sciences and evidence synthesis librarian here at the University Libraries.
Well, that does sound very complicated, and I'm not going to go there because I'm so excited about the book you chose. The book you chose is The Grieving Brain, and it's by Mary Frances O'Connor, PhD, Dr. O'Connor's research. She's a brain scientist, correct?
Yes.
And tell me why this book means so much to you.
Yeah, so her research has been around bereavement and grief, and so this book was published recently. It was February 2022. I had it pre-ordered, so I'm not sure when I became aware of it, but I got it as soon as it was published. And it was super relevant to me because I was deep in the grief. My mom had passed away suddenly September 2021. And so this book seemed like something that would resonate with me because of the science behind grieving. That's something I'm kind of attracted to. So it really filled a need for me.
I guess my question is, and I'll disclose that I had recently I lost my husband suddenly, and I had piles and piles of grief books.
Yeah.
But the one that spoke to me was this one, because I was experiencing, I can only describe as I wasn't me. I wasn't me. I couldn't read books. I used to read about a book a day. I couldn't recall things. I was losing things. You had a conversation with me 2 weeks ago. I say, hey, we really need to talk about that. And you say, we had that conversation 2 weeks ago. And someone explained to me that I was experiencing brain damage, literal, not figuratively, but it was hard to explain to people that my therapist was telling me that my brain was damaged. And in this book, what does she say?
Yeah, she's phenomenal at explaining it too, right? I mean, she's super smart, but it's so accessible when she's talking about the brain and the neuroscience behind it. But yeah, it's so much of your brain being used to functioning in a certain way. We have these habits, we have these expectations for seeing our loved ones. And then we have to, through grief, do that remapping. She talks about mapping a lot.
That remapping. And people talk about the stages of grief, which people have learned is bullshit and is not true. There are no stages of grief. But what it is that she talks about that you have the ability, your brain has the ability to make new trails.
Yeah.
But if you're not making new trails, those waves just come over you over and over again because of your brain's expectations. Neurons.
Yes.
Food.
Yes. Bathing. It's so treacherous. Grief is so treacherous. It's just awful. And so her putting words to things and talking about interventions to prevent prolonged, complicated grief, which is one of her research areas, it just helped me so much and affirmed my feelings. It was like, oh, I haven't had words to describe what she just described, and now I know that it was completely normal.
And that this is typical.
Yes.
I'm not experiencing grave depression because I can't put two thoughts together. I'm experiencing profound grief, and this is typical for profound grief. And she put people in MRIs and looked at their brains and saw exactly where the damage is and exactly what was going on.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
This was the first book I could read from cover to cover.
Yeah, and I want to affirm what you said about how hard it was to read in general. No concentration. It went from being my go-to hobby to not being able to read a few pages, which is so strange. So I was happy that this book came to me when it did.
And I also want to add, when we do Read This Books, we want you all to read these books, and we mean everyone, because friends and family who are saying, what is wrong with her still, here it's all explained, and I just want to say, a lot of white space. It's not dense. It's so readable.
It is, yeah.
Any last words?
Just highly recommend, if you have people in your life suffering through bereavement, that they pick up this book.
Thank you for coming. I'm so sorry for your loss, but I'm so
Same.
happy that we share the love of this book. And that's all we have for today on Read This Book.